Hi, folks, and welcome to another Saturday morning Samoflange. I'm Matt.
And I'm Mikey.
And I'm Batman.
Wait, what?
Adam West Batman.
Whoa, Adam West Batman.
Hey, speaking of Batman, hey, we're back, man. We are
back. The
back.
original trilogy has made it back, finally.
And there's nothing like the original trilogy. Ain't that right, Matt?
No, there's not. Nothing like the OT, baby.
Man, episode 2 was my favorite.
What episode?
I'm kidding.
Did you mean
Predator 2?
Matt's face was perfect. Matt's face was perfect. I said episode 2 is my favorite. And it was
Under a minute, you already. We're going to talk about TV shows here today, and we're going to go through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. However, as you know, in the 50s, that's the dawn of television. There wasn't much on besides some variety shows. Probably the most significant that I think all three of us can agree upon is I Love Lucy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, Lucy.
There he is.
Yeah, I love that show. And by the way, it still stands out.
It does hold up. It's a really great show.
As one of the greatest comedies.
There's nothing you can really say about it. I mean, it's one of the best shows of all time.
It's still funny today.
Definitely the best show from the 50s. It is funny today.
I think the last time I watched the whole series was a few years ago, and it's still hilarious. Still makes you laugh every time. Every season is good. No wonder people didn't want it to end. So that's the only one. Unless, do we have another honorable mention for the 50s?
I mean, well, you had your big ones like Perry Mason and Dragnet,
but he's more 60s. Perry Mason is, so we can talk about him in the next decade.
But you've got The Adventures of Superman started in 52.
Right. So Superman, the original Superman. Did anyone ever watch that one?
I never
watched the old Superman.
And then you Leave the Beaver. Would you consider that 60s? I mean, it was started late 50s.
Well, no. Remember, the majority of their run has to have taken place within that decade to be considered part of the show. So that's it for the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound like a dick, but I mean, I Love Lucy was pretty much like.
Well, that was really the only. Besides a bunch of variety shows and stuff like that,
Dragnet.
They never, but they never had anything like I Love Lucy. That's why it was number one all the way through, and why people. I remember my grandmother told me, she lived in New Jersey. There were people in New York who would watch that show. The whole city of New York would go to the bathroom during the commercial break, and there'd be a draw on the water supply. I mean, that's how big that show was.
I mean, I guess if you want to mention Rin Tin Tin.
We don't.
But, I mean...
No.
Yeah, we don't care
No.
about
I like
dogs.
dogs.
Screw dogs. Anyway, so 50s.
What? The Honeymooners.
Yeah.
The Honeymooners?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch it, though? I never watched The Honeymooners.
I've
I
seen
mean, I
some
know
of it.
Alice Pal to the Moon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that, if we're talking about, like, cornerstone
classic.
from the 50s,
It's a
I wouldn't
generation
put it up
thing.
there with I Love Lucy, but, I mean, it had the... one of these days, Alice, right to the moon!
My parents love it. So, I mean, I think people that grew up at that time would
Love it.
love that type of show and love those shows of that era.
But the only show I'm very familiar with in the 50s was Lucy.
Right.
And I'm very familiar
I'm in
with
agreement
it.
with that.
Very.
Yeah.
I would watch the whole series again. Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
whatever. So 50s, man, gone.
All right, so 50s are gone. So now it's time to get to the 60s, which is really, if the Lucy can be the golden age, the 60s is the silver age, because there are so many shows.
Yeah, there's
and
tons.
We have a top 5 here. So for the 60s, Mikey, why don't you go ahead and start us off with number 5?
All right, so in the 60s, lots of good shows. My number 5 is going to be Gomer Pyle. I absolutely adore Gomer Pyle. Like, it used to come on like late at night and early in the morning.
The spinoff to Andy Griffin.
Yeah, absolutely.
You loved it.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I watched it, but wow, I didn't think it's good, but I did not know that was going to make the top 5 on anyone's.
Sarge. And then I love Gomer Pyle. It just made me laugh. I love that character. But what I also loved was later on in life, whenever I found out, because my mom and dad are a little bit older, so they love Jim Neighbors. And whenever I found out that he was this singer, with this real deep
crooner, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like it just made me like him even more. So I do love me some Gomer Pyle.
All right. I would have to put Get Smart, 5.
Get Smart as your number 5. Get Smart was one of my honorable mentions because I love Get Smart. Used to watch it all the time. I can still remember the intro where he's going through all the closed doors, and of course the last one closes on his nose.
I mean, Get Smart.
It's classic.
Get Smart was fantastic. I mean, and when did the first Bond movie come out? Was it in the 60s, right? Or
It was the early 60s.
early 60s.
Dr.
So I
No.
mean, like the 60s is when, because you had the Twilight Zone kind of in the 50s, and then the 60s you also had Alfred Hitchcock Presents. So like, the kind of the fiction was making its way to TV, because you think about, you had I Love Lucy, you had stuff that was kind of relatable to real world events, but then you had this this sciencey kind of super spy and Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Twilight Zone, and all that stuff. And I think the 60s was a great gateway for that. So
Get Smart.
Get Smart's number 5 for me.
All right. Number 5 for me is dun dun dun. I love the Addams Family.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Used to watch them all the time. These shows, the 60s shows, came on TBS non-stop every day. You could only watch 60. It was basically just the home for 60s shows. And so that's where I got most of my cultural education.
I agree.
Was from TBS.
Well, cable got big in the 80s. So like whenever we were growing up, just worldwide kind of mass cable stations, not network TV like your Fox and CBS, but just cable TV. And whenever we were growing up, and if it was late at night or early in the morning,
in the afternoon after school,
it was flooded with all the shows from the 60s and the 70s.
If it was a cartoon you'd seen already, we switched over to Addams Family because it was great.
Yeah.
All right, so number 4.
Number 4 for Mikey. It's so good to be back, fellas.
I know.
I was just say that.
And I was just going to say that the Addams Family, my first actual experience with Addams Family was a stupid playground rhyme with the Addams Family started when Uncle Fester farted, and then I didn't know what that was like. Who's this Uncle Fester, and how did he start a family by farting? So I went home and asked Mom.
Boy, you were very disappointed when you saw the TV show.
Yeah. There was
Fester doesn't fart once.
There's no fart. What the hell? I'm the most disappointed 8-year-old right now. But no, I mean.
So you made your own.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, yes, I'm just saying I'm happy to be back. It feels good to be back. I want to apologize for all the listeners out there that missed me because I missed you. But number 4, I got another curveball here for y'all, but I've loved this show so much, Mr. Ed. I absolutely love Mr. Ed.
Wow. Wow. Again, you surprised me with your pick.
Yeah, and this is not just shock value. Like, I loved this show. Like, I just thought, because, my parents were, I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. They're older, but they were, like Southern Baptist, so it's kind of like a clean household. And those type of shows from the 60s were pretty clean, so Mr. Ed was always something that was, my dad would watch and laugh at. So,
of course.
Yep.
Of course. Well, number 4.
Number 4.
Batman.
Number 4. Number 4 is I can't do an Adam West voice, but anyways, number 4 is an import. The Avengers.
Okay.
It actually aired in Britain for a little while before it came over, but it's a great one. Another super spy. You have you had this husband and wife team that kind of go against these diabolical evildoers and everything, and the leather boots and the mini skirts. So I mean, what's not to love?
And Iron Man.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's interesting. So you're more of the spy.
I got to tell you, I love the super spy movie shows from the 60s. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
I mean, I love it.
Well, I'm gonna have to keep with comedy horror, and number 4 is The Munsters.
Okay.
Which I loved.
Yep.
I loved. In fact, it was a coin flip between 4 and 5. But The Munsters went out because Herman Munster, Lily, all of them. Her uncle.
That's kind of odd too. That most people would put Addams Family over the Munsters.
I know they do, but
it's like you're picking Pepsi over Coke. I like that.
A little bit there, but the Munsters just always were fun. I mean, who didn't love Herman Munster?
I loved him.
I mean, to be honest, little Eddie the Vampire
I wanted
Boy.
to marry him.
That was just great. Mm-hmm. That was you wanted to marry Herman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying I loved him. So.
Funny story.
Okay.
Funny story.
I was gonna say Lily. So number 3.
Number 3 for Mikey.
Petticoat Junction.
Is not Petticoat Junction.
Wow.
But if you sit right back, you'll hear a tale.
Oh.
A tale of a fateful trip.
Really?
Yeah. Gilligan's Island.
Now, was that more 70s?
No, that was all 60s.
Now I heard about that. That was only supposed to be a 3-hour tour.
Huh.
A 3-hour tour.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So tell me what you liked about it the best.
What's not to love about Gilligan's Island? Gilligan's Island is probably one of
iconic.
my favorite TV shows of all time. It is iconic.
I mean,
but I always identify. I mean, I love all the characters in that show. The characters are extremely strong, but I always identify with kind of the skinny nerdy guy because that's what I am and what I've always been. So Gilligan was kind of a hero to me. Gilligan is
was he your favorite castaway?
As a matter of fact, he wasn't my favorite castaway. And
Who was your favorite castaway?
the professor.
Oh, did you want the professor and Marianne to get together?
Well, yes, because I liked that. I did, even at a young age. But I liked all the characters. I thought all the characters were very well written. They were all so different. But it's just a great show. There's not much to say about Gilligan's Island. It's just awesome.
It is good. It is good. So yeah, 60s show. I loved it. I love Gilligan. I like Skipper. We watched it all the time. In fact, I read back in the day, people were calling the Coast Guard to say, hey, you need to save these people. They are stuck on an island. People got it mixed up as reality. Wow. Didn't they have the Harlem Globetrotters come see him? Or some? Didn't they have celebrities?
Yeah, there was an episode towards the end. Or actually, I want to say there's a maybe
that was the movie.
There's like a Harlem Globetrotters Gilligan's Island movie.
Oh, it's great.
Imagine Survivor started in the 60s.
Did you watch the early 80s movies?
I did.
Where they, or maybe in late 70s, where they escape the island,
right, and then
then go on another tour and then end up back on the island.
I knew that there was some movies.
And Ginger wasn't invited back. They had to get a different Ginger. I don't think she got around.
Yeah, that was a little bit.
She got along with the rest of the cast or something. Anyway, though, that's a good number 3. Good one. Okay, so my number 3. Shocked I haven't heard it yet.
What about my number 3?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Your number. Batman, you don't matter.
Look, I gotta say, 60s TV is great, and I could honestly have a top 5 for comedy and a top 5 for sci-fi because there's that much to pull from. But I hope some of the other ones that I can rattle some honorable mentions, obviously. But number 3 has to go to Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Those were a lot of good ones there.
I mean, it's Alfred. What's not to love about Alfred Hitchcock?
He was great.
And there were things that still echo Alfred Hitchcock to this day. It was innovative, you know.
Well, he was king of the Easter egg.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, he would put himself, and if you blinked, you missed him.
Exactly.
He would put himself in the episodes just as little Easter eggs, which now it's done in a lot of TV shows and movies.
And movies, right?
But he was
Stan
the first,
Lee and the Marvels.
Yeah, but he was the first one to start doing stuff like that.
I mean, you have to give it to the 60s TV era. I mean, it had so many great it
pioneered
really
a lot of traditional
and if it weren't for
methods,
Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Twilight Zone, if it weren't for those shows, and Get Smart, The Avengers, I mean, it gave birth to a lot of that
and
stuff.
The thing is, a lot of those shows, like Alfred Hitchcock Presents, were just brilliantly written.
Absolutely.
Too, is the thing. So, I mean, kind of almost ahead of its time when TV didn't have to be so complicated.
Right.
And so...
things don't have to be complicated to be good.
They really don't.
No, but I'm just saying to make you think. And they don't have to be complicated. They can be very simple. All these are very simple premises in the 60s. But then you have... It's not that because they weren't smart enough to write something smart. Alfred Hitchcock wrote some really smart, thought-provoking episodes.
Exactly. Well, if you go back and you look at the old Twilight Zones and Alfred Hitchcock Presents, I mean, they just rely on a good story.
Yes, they do.
That word right there, that word alone is the difference between TV then and TV today. Now, I love TV today. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I think TV today is great.
I do too, and we'll get into that later. So I'm not bashing it. I'm just talking about when we're talking about simplicity's sakes. Like I think that too many times producers, writers, directors, whatever, they overthink. They try to push too much. They try to get too clever with shows. And one of the reasons why things like I Love Lucy or Alfred Hitchcock Presents or Twilight Zones or we were watching a little bit of a movie last night, an old horror movie that was just kind of simple, that used simple, effective techniques. Like these things work if they're done right. And the problem today is a lot of people, I don't think they have the patience and they want to take the time to write a good story because how many times can you see a romantic comedy where boy meets girl and they fall in love and then boy loses girl and they get back together? The reason why these themes and these same stories keep popping up over and over and over again is because it is the same story over, and you can tell the same story over and over again. So I don't understand why these people want to try to make things too clever and try to out-trick themselves.
And
a good, simple story will still work today. The same things that work, like I Love Lucy is a good show today.
It can, but no one believes in that.
Well, that's an interesting thought, though, because I've had this conversation before, and my thing was I always arrived at this conclusion. There's too many tools for one job.
So no one believes in that. It can work, I agree, but no one right now really believes in it.
Well, what's happened what happened in modern TV though is that for most of the 2000s, when I know we'll talk about that later, but it got really big into reality shows, and there was a time there where these TV producers did not think that people wanted to watch serialized TV shows, and of course now that's debunked. I mean,
Right.
and that's everybody. We want to watch one continuous story. Like that's what we hang
Right.
upon. So I do think that the stories are getting better, but they do.
Oh, I agree.
They have to be kind of convoluted these days, just with our short attention spans.
Yeah.
with YouTube.
Exactly. It all
can't-
comes down to patience.
You can't have simple stories like my number 3,
What is it?
The Andy Griffith Show.
Ah. I can't whistle. I'm not gonna try it.
Yeah. I love that show. Everything about it. Andy Griffith, it's simple. It works.
Nothing
You know
gets
what?
past
Like,
him.
we're just gonna make this a
You
joint-
have Gomer Pyle. You put Gomer Pyle up there, but Andy Griffith Show to me it is number 3.
That's your
and
number
it's
three?
It's
He's
a
a
big
mention for
number
me.
3
Yeah.
too.
Well, we're wrapping around to my number 2, which is Andy Griffith. So we'll just put this all
That's
together.
fine. We'll put it
Okay,
all.
all right.
Yeah.
Let's throw it all in the
Yeah.
in the pot here.
It's a
So-
fantastic show. Like, how could you not?
is.
Like, it's still to this day. Like, I mean, I don't know of anybody out
I
there
agree.
that does not like Andy Griffith. And what I love the most about Andy Griffith is that it is a wholesome, simple, fun TV show, and it's just great comedy. Like, it's just good writing, good characters,
is.
and I like stuff that's a little bit more risque. I'm not a prude or anything like that, but I love watching Andy Griffith.
Well, and you have
it's
the-
simple, fun, and it's so funny.
There's
It
the,
is so very fun.
the
The characters,
incomparable
the
Don
barber.
Knotts,
I mean, Floyd, fantastic, and he's just a side character. But yet his character alone, fantastic. You think they did a spinoff on Gomer Pyle? They could have done a spinoff on any one of those characters.
Yeah, they could have.
Honestly,
It's kind of what
Otis.
Seinfeld did too. Like, it's like good TV shows really pay attention to the side characters, and they make them just as popular and well known and infamous as the main characters.
And in the Andy Griffith Show, they were all equally popular.
really, when you think about it, like Andy Griffith is the one that people talk about the last in that show.
That's
or
true.
Least in that show,
That's
he's
true,
just
and
like
he's the
straight
host.
guy.
He's the main character.
Yeah,
but he's
just
the straight
humble,
guy. But the thing is, though, Andy Griffith enjoyed that.
Yeah, he did.
He loved everyone having their time to shine. He encouraged that.
That's probably why it worked so well.
It does work so well, and you need a lead like that who's not afraid to give up the spotlight,
Right.
To make a really
Because Barney
good
got
show.
most of the spotlight in that
Well,
show.
yeah,
Well,
that's
gee,
the thing.
he's a comedic genius.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
Andy
that was
Griffith
Don Knotts.
he was the anchor, and all these characters kind of revolved around him. And
But
Yes.
people don't like being that. I mean, we're all actors and we've been in these shows. Like, it's like being the straight man is
no
absolutely
fun.
the toughest
It's no
role
fun.
to play. So
but
anyway,
but it needs to be done.
it has to be done
to set up the rest of it.
right. And a lot of people don't understand that, especially when you've got
Yeah.
everybody else getting laughs and then you're not getting any laughs, and it's like, well, it's hard to sell that to somebody.
Yeah. All
What's
right.
your number 2, Batman?
All right, my number 2 is Batman. I mean, that was, I won't say it's the first, because I don't know when Green Hornet came. Was Green Hornet in the 70s?
I think
Green Hornet was 60s.
Was it 60s? I mean, I'm not going to
No,
say
it was because remember they had a crossover with Batman.
Okay, yeah, Kato.
Yeah, Kato
came
and
over
Green
there.
Hornet came
Yeah.
over to the Batman.
But like, I don't want to sit here and say Batman was the first one in the 60s with the comic book to TV show, but still, no, it's fantastic. The Cape Crusader was on TV for the first time. I think that they played it to where comic books should have been played on TV. It was almost like a cartoon. It wasn't afraid to be kind of hokey, make fun of itself. But at the same time, it's fantastic. And then you have the shark spray in the movie.
Oh, that's
Jump it.
that's my absolute favorite part. Like, I was actually just thinking that in my head right now. I was like, Robin, hand down the anti-shark repellent bat
Just-
spray.
Not to
Bat
mention-
shark repellent
Yeah,
spray.
and you
Yeah.
have and Adam West and Burt Ward are at pretty much every Comic Con.
Well, yeah, but
I mean,
they're
they're
a
fan
fantastic
favorites.
duo, and
They're
I'll
great.
go ahead. I mean, he called out my number 1.
That's my
To
number
me.
1 too.
That's your number 1
Yeah,
too.
it is, yeah.
Well, let's just talk about it then.
Okay, well, let's go.
As my number 1 pick, everything about that show worked. Caesar Ramono as the Joker worked. He's fantastic. I really can't.
Frank Gorshin, come on.
Frank Gorshin as the Riddler
Meredith.
Burgess Meredith as the Penguin.
These are classic
I mean, you
people.
look at Julie
Yvonne
Newmar.
Craig is
or
Batgirl.
Lee
By-
Merriweather.
by the way,
or
Lee-
Eartha Kitt, any of them.
Yes, any of them are good. They're all good to have. These are excellent
That's
characters.
Yvonne
And-
Craig, Batgirl.
I mean, you got Vincent Price as Egghead and stuff like that, and tons. And then
And the Alfred was fantastic.
And the Alfred
Oh,
was
hey, hold on a
fantastic.
second.
King Tut, all the other side characters that they had brought on.
Foul!
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Done. There you go.
riddle me this, Matt.
Yeah,
Matt
You know
Man.
what? Frank Gorshin, he made the Riddler for me. He was the Riddler.
He was.
He probably still is if you compared Riddlers. I mean, I love everything about that show. The comedy, I enjoyed it as a kid growing it up because I didn't think it was that comedic. I just thought it was really good.
It is good.
You know, it's got all these colors. It's very vibrant. And you're just getting excited because it's Batman and Robin. But then years later, you can enjoy it for a whole nother reason.
Lest we not forget the opening song. Na 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 na. I mean, and it's still echoed today.
My little nephew, he's 4 years old. If you do the na 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 na, he'll go Batman. He already knows. Everyone knows Batman.
It is like the epitome of like a live action comic book because they did, with the pals and the fighting, but with the camp, like it didn't take itself too seriously. That's what I'm saying.
It was perfect,
and it was just fun.
The only thing that I can't imagine is why it is on Batman's number 2 list. He's named Batman after all. You think it would be number 1 on Batman's list, but he didn't even pick his own show as number 1. Now, before we get to your number 1, I'll go ahead and give my number 2, which may be your number 1.
Okay,
because no one's mentioned it. It's Star Trek.
I was hoping someone would mention that.
The original series. It was
so
my
many
number
shows.
2. It's not as good as Batman, but I thought it was a really good show. I love the original series. I like Star Trek. I like Bones, Kirk, and Spock. I mean, of course, Leonard Nimoy passed away a few weeks ago, but that show was brilliant.
So I'll take a moment here just to we're gonna have a Matt James Bond moment.
Okay.
I've never seen a single episode of Star Trek.
Really?
The original, you haven't?
Never.
Wow.
I've never seen a single episode of Star Trek, of Voyager, of Deep Space Nine, Next Generation.
That is crazy.
Damn.
I have seen the movies from the 80s because I've always been a movie guy, but I mean,
how would you enjoy? Did you enjoy Wrath of Khan?
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it just as a standalone movie because it's a great movie, but as far as backstory or anything...
that's interesting
I don't know
because that's the
about
backstory off of an original series called Space Seed. And when he was making Star Trek 2, the writer was looking over the episodes, and that episode stuck in his head, and he wanted to write a sequel to that episode. So they built it up to where if you're a Star Trek fan, when you're watching it, and Chekhov says, Khan, everyone in their seat goes... What? Because they know who that is from the other episode that they brought him back, which is one of the reasons why that is such a smart film there. But that's amazing. That's interesting.
Star Great. I mean, when you get a chance, watch them. I mean,
it's probably on my list one of these days to watch.
It's definitely worth your time
because I do respect it. I haven't ever really just been that interested, and because I know it's like a huge undertaking, and I'm one of these type of people that if I can't just watch something here or there, like I will want to start from the beginning and watch them all.
Best episodes were in season 3 when they cut their budget to a third of what it was, and you got episodes like Spock's Brain and the hippie space children. Oh, great.
Yeah,
remember the hippie space flower children?
Oh my god.
Yeah, see that took you back.
That may have been one of the first because my dad showed me Star Trek. He was like, because we would stay up, on school nights and watch Next Generation, and he said, well, hey, you should check this out. I used to watch this growing up, and that was like the first episode he showed me. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, but that was the season 3 is the weakest season.
I've got a question for you and the listeners. Favorite commanding officer? Mine is Jean-Luc Picard.
Oh, you're going to get a lot of questions on that.
But, I'm sure, but I mean,
we can talk about.
It doesn't. It's not open for like a debate. I don't want to.
Well, obviously, William Shatner playing Captain Kirk is a better commanding officer because of this reason.
I'm ready to get to the 70s, Batman. What's your number
favorite?
1?
The Dick Van Dyke Show.
You know what? I'm so glad you said that because it is on my honorable mention list.
It's very classy.
And I love the Dick Van Dyke Show is really funny. It also has a classy intro. But the thing is, though, Andy Griffith's show just trumped it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and that's
but Andy Van
when you
Andy
say
Van Dyke
intro,
show is great.
There's one thing we haven't talked about, which I think we're going to talk about like a whole nother podcast one time, is these theme songs.
See, I think that deserves its own cast.
Because really in the 60s is whenever these shows started getting these wonderful
Because that's how they started getting you remembering these shows.
You identify. Like anytime any of these shows, we were talking about them, the first thing that pops in my head is the theme song. Like it's just so identifiable.
But see, to me, like this conversation about 60s television is almost like a conversation I had about Miyazaki films. Like, it doesn't matter which one's your favorite or your least favorite. There's no losing argument. It's like, I also really love that movie too. I love all of these shows.
Yeah, all these shows are good.
There's no like Predator 2 on this list.
Okay, now I haven't mentioned it. It's been mentioned twice. So I mean, I haven't mentioned it. So I mean, all arguments are null and void.
There we go. Actually, one of my honorable mentions was the Beverly Hillbillies.
That's a great show.
I mean, come and listen to a story about a man named Jed.
Right.
Whole mountaineer, and left his family dead. Then one day he was shooting up some food, went up, tamed the ground, came a bubbling crude, oil that is, black gold, Texas tea. See, you know it. You know it just like that.
What's funny is that like whenever we're trying to say it, we don't really know if we remember it, but we have to sing it, and then we remember every word.
Exactly,
you remember every word when you sing it. It's great. It's a great show.
I got some honorable mentions too. I mean, let's
give me an honorable mention.
I Dream of Jeannie.
You know what? If the missus was here, that would be her number one for the 60s.
That is a fantastic show.
I Dream of Jeannie is
And let
fantastic.
me just say one thing. Barbara Eden.
I know. Honestly, one of the sexiest women of the 60s in television.
And Batgirl.
And I would say 70s.
Yeah.
I don't know. She's
Lost in Space.
She's really good. Lost in Space is another
Hey, wait a
good one.
second. Speaking of I Dream of
them.
Jeannie, what was the officer's name? Like the her owner?
Oh, her own? I don't
Colonel
remember.
something or whatever?
Yeah, I don't remember his last name.
Anyway, I'm going to give a shout out to our good friend Wendy, because every time we talk about I Dream of Jeannie, she always talks about how hot that guy was.
The Colonel was?
Yeah, how hot, like Colonel Hotness or whatever his name was.
Colonel Hotness.
You talking about Bill Daly?
I don't know what his name was, but whoever the guy is, she was like, man, he was always in uniform, and he was just a man.
That's
must have
funny.
been after
I never
they
even
come
thought
back
about
to
that. I know
Yeah.
why men watch the show.
Yeah, exactly.
I had no idea why women watch it.
Yeah.
Now you know why. It's equally sexist.
Well, men watch the show to hear some woman call them master. Yes, master.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing on that show.
Well, I mean, and we could have a whole podcast on like just the I Dream of Jeannie costume. You know, like that's one of the best costumes.
That was the 60s, so
it's fantastic.
Guys still acted that way in the 60s.
Bewitched,
I'm
another
telling
one.
Yeah, Bewitched. It's fine.
Bewitched I didn't watch Bewitched as much. Mine would be My Favorite Martian. We used to watch that one a lot, and we loved it. That was always a fun one to watch. Did y'all ever watch My Favorite Martian?
I did not.
Really?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I've seen some episodes, but I can't say I followed it. It wasn't like one of those ones where I was like, ooh.
Do you have an honorable mention, Mikey?
I mean, all of these that y'all are saying are honorable mentions. You know, Beverly Hillbillies would probably be like my top honorable mention, because that was just a fun show.
Oh, you know what my top honorable mention would be? Well, actually, it was the Dick Van Dyke Show, but another one, Hogan's Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
Come on. Who did not love that? We watched that usually sometimes on Saturday mornings before the cartoons came on. Hogan's Heroes would come on at 6. And we started watching Hogan's Heroes every morning. And that's sometimes how we started our Saturday mornings. You know, if Rocky and Bullwinkle weren't on or we got tired of them, boom, it was Hogan's Heroes, and with a smile on our face too. I thought that show was fan-friggin-tastic.
Yep. One more. Mission Impossible. That's the other one I'll mention.
Oh, the original. Oh yeah, because you like the spy movies.
Oh man, yeah. I didn't mention. It didn't make it in my top 5, but it's still. I mean, it's hard to make a top 5 with all these great spy movies.
It is.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff that my dad and I would watch, together, and that's how I was exposed to a lot of these. And the only one I didn't care for was Dennis the Menace. So, I mean, I can't say that I like all TV from the 60s. It's, kind of one of those, I didn't like it as much. But
all right.
Overall, great decade.
So, let's leave the 60s behind.
Oh,
let's
boy.
truck into the 70s.
Oh, boy.
Here we go.
I got an idea.
Let's
great. All get into our Jetsons mobile, which was from the 60s, and let's travel to the 70s.
Or we could get in our, what did Fred Flintstone call his car? That was 62.
All right, here we are. We're in the 70s.
All right, so Laverne and Shirley.
No, I do love that show.
You don't have it on
It's not top 5 for me, but I do like
good.
it.
I love. My mom watched that show, which is why I love the show.
Well, my mom's name is Shirley, so yeah, we watched every episode.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
But you always watched it. You always loved it. I remember when their last season and everything, my mom was upset.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, she did not like Laverne and Shirley going away.
Yeah.
Because she wanted more Laverne and Shirley. Those were her girls.
More Ovaltine, please.
They were fantastic. They were hilarious.
It was a good show.
They were really good. But I remember that was one of my mom's favorite shows.
And Penny Marshall
back in the
turned
day.
out to be one heck of a director. She directed one of my favorite movies of all time, Big.
Yeah, she did. Mm-hmm. That's right.
My number 5 is... I have kind of a weird eclectic taste from the 70s. There's lots of great shows from the 70s. But my number 5 is Chips. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, all
right.
Of course.
It's not particularly that it was a good show. I just really enjoyed it. Like, it was always fun. I love the motorcycle chases. I liked that kind of like...
Who didn't want to be Chips, by the way?
No,
on
right,
those
right.
motorcycles. You thought they were the coolest police officers
Exactly.
ever.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of the show is just them kind of riding around and then,
I know.
really cool. Like, and now by today's standards, they're simplistic car chases. But back then, like, you're on a highway of California and they're chasing some old station wagon or something to a gas station. Like, it was just kind of fun, adventurous type stuff. And I like cop shows like that, but it was a pretty like exciting cop show. Like there was a lot of action in it. There was a lot of kind of like Dukes of Hazzard was in the sense of like lots of automobile fun. And when you're little, like that's just kind of fun to watch. It captures and keeps your attention.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I like me some chips.
Batman number 5 for the 70s.
Mary Tyler Moore.
The Mary Tyler Moore show.
So okay, I got a question
Yeah.
for you. Now I'll do like Mary Tyler Moore, but like so Dick Van Dyke gets number 1, but then Mary Tyler drops all the way to number 5. Is that a testament to how good the '70s shows were?
Yes,
Or
absolutely.
just weaker '60s shows?
No.
were?
It's not a shot against Mary Tyler Moore show like in comparison to Dick Van Dyke being number 1. It's just that the '70s. Oh my God, the '70s.
Yeah.
And I think I would say this: if you put Dick Van Dyke in the '70s, he would probably still get 5 because of the top 5 that I have.
All right, that's fair. That's good. That
Wow.
answers my question.
Wow.
Because I think most
Interesting.
people will put Mary Tyler Moore over Dick Van Dyke just in a head-to-head comparison. I think they say
I
Mary
think
Tyler Moore
I
is a
would
better
put
show.
them more equal. That's just me.
Yeah.
I would
Mary
put them
Tyler Moore
equal.
had elements that I liked over Dick Van Dyke show, but as far as just a classic charm, I think Dick Van Dyke wins. But like I said, if Dick Van Dyke was in this top 5 of the '70s, let's say it was in the '70s, it would still be 5.
Man, I feel you.
Just still be 5. Still be in there.
Yeah.
My number 4, which is actually Mikey's number 1. I'm just going to go ahead and call it out here.
Uh-oh.
The Brady Bunch.
Oh no! You see that? I can't say it on public radio, but you can see it with your own 2 eyes.
You do not like Brady
Say it, he'll
Bunch
censor
at
it out
all.
later.
And
Bleeps are funny.
I
Bleeps are
love
funny.
the Brady Bunch. I think they are great. We used to watch them all the time. Brady Bunch forever. It's a great show.
I think for once I'm not in the minority here. I did not like the Brady Bunch either.
Whoa, I'm in the room with 2 Brady Bunch haters.
Brady Bunch is
That's sad because the 70s was the Brady Bunch.
no.
I do not
No.
deny the popularity of
No,
that
not at
show,
all. Deny
but-
that, but
Yes, it was. It was one of the most popular. Who you got? Oh wait, I was going to name someone else, but that may be on your list. But the Brady Bunch, to me, were more popular than that other family show.
It's probably safe to say the Partridge Family is not on our list.
It's not on your
Oh,
list
my
either.
God.
Okay,
But I
There
would
you
rather
go.
watch the Partridge Family than the Brady Bunch.
No, Brady Bunch over Partridge.
At least
Family.
those hippies sang.
Fine, give me your number 4.
At least it had Danny Bonaducci
Fine,
who grew up to punch Quilter.
I will say it is a very highly quotable show.
It is quotable.
It is
is.
very highly quotable.
All right, my number 4, I'm going to just sing the theme song here and see if y'all can get it.
All right.
All right. Bum, bum, bueno.
Yep.
Oh, that's Sanford and Son. That's Sanford and Son. Took one of my honorable mentions. This is This is the big one. This is the big one.
I'm coming to see it.
It's classic. Red Fox is hilarious.
Yes, he
Lamont
is.
is just like the perfect
Yes,
counter
he is. It's
actor to him.
perfect.
It's fancy. Yeah,
It
love that
is.
show.
I love it. I love it.
I'm
I
glad
love it.
somebody
I love
put
it.
that
I
on the
love it.
list.
I love it.
I am glad someone put that. That was on my honorable mention.
And all of my video game avatars and everything these days, my namesakes, ever since you started to have to be somebody online, has always been Lamont. I'm always Lamont.
Okay.
Always
All right.
Because of
Lamont.
this. Well, not always. We'll talk about that later when we talk about video games some more.
Right,
but
right,
Lamont is mainly my namesake.
Okay.
I love that show.
All right. Number 4 for Batman.
Okay. Well, since we're doing theme songs, I think that'd be a fun way to introduce some of these.
Okay.
Here we go. Well, we're moving on up
Moving on up.
to the east side.
On up.
To a deluxe apartment in the sky high.
So
I
the
love it.
Jeffersons.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm excited just singing the song.
Beans
I gotta
don't
go home.
burn in the kitchen.
Up.
Some putting on the grill. I kind of forgot that one part.
Wow. But yeah, okay, so
Oh,
the Jeffersons
God.
definitely out there.
Jeffersons, man, there's not enough I can say about it.
Wheezy.
And the fact that it's my number 4,
Yeah.
and it's one of the
Tells
best
you
shows
something.
ever made. It's my number 4.
And it's a spin-off.
It is.
Of what?
I don't know, but
All in the Family.
All in the Family. Okay.
Yeah, it is. That's right. That's
It's a
right.
I knew it was a
All in the
spin-off, but
Family.
I
I knew
couldn't
that.
remember.
Yeah.
One of the most popular shows that we haven't mentioned. I hope it's on no one's top 5.
It's-
I didn't
it's
put
not.
it but it's most significant for having the most spin-offs off of the side characters.
Yeah.
Just about every side
What
character
was the
got
other
a spin-off.
I know it because
I'm going to tell you in a minute.
Okay, all right.
I think it's going to come up in someone's top 5.
Okay, all right.
But I'm going to tell you a spin-off show that no one realizes it was a spin-off. But number 3 for me is Mork and Mindy. Which is a spin-off of Happy Days.
Yes.
We didn't talk. Well, we haven't talked about yet, but he was on one episode of Happy Days. He stole the show so much so that they gave him his own TV show, and it worked.
Yeah,
it worked.
Dude,
that was the first introduction to Robin
to
Williams.
be reckoned with. I mean,
yes. And on top of his game, I mean, he hit the gate running.
Yeah.
Most people, when they get their first acting career, you don't remember it. You don't remember where you first saw, this actor or that. When you watch these movies again, you go, they were in that
from
movie.
that era. And I think that's what make these people, like, not just regular actors, but they make these people icons. Because Robin Williams is an icon. And I'm not saying that because he's dead. I'm just saying that because, like, I'm one of the only people out there that actually does not like Robin Williams' stand-up. I think his stand-up is way too manic. It's hard to watch. But, like, as an actor and just as, like, a comedian, like, in TV shows and stuff, he was unparalleled. But, like, you're right. Like, he was so young. Like, he hit the ground running, and he made you remember him. But Eddie Murphy did the same thing. Like, because he was, like, 20 years old when he was on Saturday Night Live, and he made you remember him, like, just like that. And I think
Jim
Tom
Carrey
Hanks
was
did it,
Jim
too.
Carrey was the same way, too.
Well, no, Jim Carrey, though, like, actually was around from the early 80s, and he paid his dues. He was on a lot of failed TV shows, and did a lot of stand-up.
They're mostly Canada, though, right?
Some was Canada, but some was Hollywood. But back to your point, yeah, like, Robin Williams, that show worked, like,
he put his name on the map on the very first thing he came out.
Robin Williams
and hit a home run, and then from there was just.
But that's because he was one of those those few people that made you remember him. Like, that's just who he was, and all the cocaine.
Was a force.
Rainbow suspenders were cool.
Yes.
While the time that show
Did
ran.
you ever have a pair?
No, but I wanted some because Mork had some. They were fantastic. That was a fantastic show.
Your birthday might be coming up soon.
Hey-o! All right, so
my number 3.
Numero 3.
Oh, we're getting to the meat of it now, to the meat.
Uh-oh.
And this is what's crazy is that we're spouting off a lot of, like, shows that aren't even on our lists that are great. Like, All in the Family's not on any of our lists. Like, come on. Like,
I know.
I love All in the Family.
Right.
I wish Wendy was here right now.
Yeah.
Girls will girls and men women.
I mean, heck, if you think about it, Family Guy is almost plays an homage to All in the Family at the very beginning of their intro.
I love All in the Family.
So my number 3. Wow, the fact that this is number 3 is just probably blasphemy, because it is the best variety show known to man, with one of the funniest females, probably the funniest female ever to live, in my opinion. And that is the Carol Burnett show.
I knew it. I knew he was going to pick the Carol Burnett
I'm
show.
so glad you put that on your list, because I was like, somebody please
It's
put
an
that on
honorable
the list,
mention for
because
me. It's
That is one of the funniest, if not, like, pound for pound, the funniest TV show I have ever seen in my life. And it was really 4 people. And it's everything that I would love to do as an actor. Just 4 people, just for 11 years, just make up stuff and just be silly. Now, here's what's great about her. Like, Harvey Korman and Tim Conway are comedic geniuses.
Yes,
absolutely.
Right? But her and Vicki Lawrence, they hold their own with those two guys the entire way. And if not funnier, like, she is just hilarious. And it's kind of that whole Jimmy Fallon syndrome. I'm curious about your take on this, because you don't like Jimmy Fallon because he cracked up in every episode. But in Carol Burnett, that's what they tried to do, and they always laughed. But it's so funny. That's some of the best stuff ever. Because Tim Conway would hardly ever crack, and he would get all of them.
You couldn't get him to crack. It's incredible. Just about every sketch he was in, he was always straight.
Now, do you feel different about that show?
Not that he stayed in character, because I think that's great. I always think it's great when they stay in character. I think it was great when Will Ferrell stayed in character with everyone else cracking
that's what I'm talking about.
Those are funny moments. But
so
when
you don't
have
like
some person who can't keep it together for one stinking scene,
oh man,
no, never.
I think the world disagrees with you on that one, because that is some of the best stuff ever.
Oh my god!
But
it's watching them crack up.
The thing about Carol Burnett is she kind of took the torch from Lucille Ball.
She did,
who was the queen of comedy.
Those two
for
are the
50s
two funniest
and 60s.
Females, yeah.
And I mean, Lucille Ball was still doing shows in the 70s, but. It was Carol Burnett's turn to shine, and she took the stage in the 70s.
Boy, did she.
And
she
pioneered ahead.
Boy, did she.
Yeah, she did.
It was funny, they're both redheads.
Yeah.
Pioneered ahead. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, Good one. A good
Love
number
that show.
3.
I can still watch it right now and just laugh.
I'm telling you,
laugh,
and
laugh.
I gotta say, I have never had an easier time at coming up with the top 5. But what I mean is how quickly I came up with the top 5. But there's so many great shows.
So who's number 3? Batman.
Lady Godiva was a freedom rider. She didn't care if the whole world looked. Right? And then there's Maud. It's Maud, man.
The
It's
other
freaking
spin-off
Maud.
from All in the Family.
It's freaking Maud.
Yeah.
Oh my
You know,
God.
I still watch it. Comes on at night.
The Lord to guide her.
Mom still comes on.
It's B. Arthur.
Nick at
God,
Night
I
and
love
everything.
B. Arthur. I like how
I love me
I like
some
the
B.
difference
Arthur.
in Batman's voice over here because he's singing the Maud song and he has to sing it real low because it's like, and then there's Maud, and then goes,
Maud.
it's Maud, man.
I think all 3 of us can agree that B. Arthur was probably the sexiest gal of the 70s.
What did I say about Barbara Eden earlier? Scratch that. B. Arthur.
Oh, yeah, we did say Barbara Eden of the 60s. So there you go. B. Arthur in the
Stanley.
70s.
Now that's 80s though.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter.
We'll talk
Still
about
work.
Golden Girls
Oh,
later.
we will get to Golden Girls.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pose a question for the listeners when we get to Golden Girls.
Oof.
Okay.
Which one?
I don't want to know the
Which
question
one?
yet.
We know our answer already.
Maud is, to be honest, the reason I love B. Arthur so much, she has that sarcastic timing.
That's
works.
it. Her comedic timing's
Her
impeccable.
comedic timing is fantastic. She plays the straight. There were a bunch of crazies around her. Maud was the weight, but she was the funniest too.
Right.
Just because of her personality
Exactly.
and how she went.
And
she kept that same character for Golden Girls later on.
and that's
Because
what's so
I feel that
interesting.
is B. Arthur.
I think that is B. Arthur,
But that's
but
what's
it
so
works.
interesting because we were talking about, as actors, we hate playing that anchor character. But when you have someone like B. Arthur, she has such a presence. And
I agree.
her timing is perfect. When you have all these loons around her, and she's almost the voice of the audience, commenting on how ridiculous these scenarios are.
I agree.
It's a type of comedy that resonates within you. Like, I can relate to that. Ha ha ha! Television. Ha!
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. I love Maud.
Yeah.
It's number 3.
Good number 3.
So hard
Good.
to take
That was
5
my
on this
honorable
one.
mention. I was so upset that she
So-
couldn't be number
and
5.
I've got-
Laverne and Shirley barely beat her out.
I've got
but
so many honorable mentions. Like,
It
I've got
happened.
pit stains. I'm so excited over here.
Hello. All right. He's pitting, and I've got your number 2. It's the Waltons. I know y'all are not happy about that, but I love the Waltons. I love Goodnight John Boy. I love everything about it. You don't like it at all. Fine. Give me your number 2, Mikey.
My number 2.
That wasn't how the Waltons theme song started.
Go ahead, I'll sing back up.
Come and knock on our door.
Come and knock on our door.
We've been waiting for you.
We've been waiting for you.
Where the kisses are hers and his, three's company too. All right, now this is crazy because this is one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and the fact that it's not number 1 should have both of y'all freaking out right now.
I'm a little freaked out.
It doesn't have me freaked out. I wouldn't have put it on my top 5.
Well, that's just you, but I love Jack Tripper. John
It's-
Ritter is like my hero,
He's
and this show
fantastic.
is like,
He's fantastic.
it is. This show,
Amazing, even.
I can watch this show every single night of my life. I have just through most of my life, like just periodically, we'll just watch random episodes here and there. It is the perfect like comic misunderstanding shows. Every single episode is like some type of misunderstanding about something. It's funny. You know what's going to happen. You know that the landlord's going to get mad about something, or Larry's going to get into trouble, or Jack's going to get
Jack,
in.
what are you doing?
But it really, I liked him so much because of his physical humor. It's very slapstick, and I love slapstick. I loved Laurel and Hardy. I love the Three Stooges. I love Jack Tripper, and then we get to Jim Carrey. I like those type of characters that do a lot of pratfalls and that are very physical. But he's really, really good. And like from an actor standpoint, if you go back and you just watch him and his just natural tendencies and abilities and how loose and open and fun he is in that character.
He's such a believable klutz.
Right. Yeah, and it doesn't take away from the rest of the show because Janet is amazing. And to your point, like Janet is goofy, but Janet is that kind of that Maude character where she's always kind of the kind of prudish, serious one.
Straight character,
but she
yeah.
can be kind of goofy too, but it plays so well for him. And then I loved Chrissy, but then I also loved Janet, and then not Janet, I loved Chrissy, and then I can't think of the other two. There was Terry, and then there was another girl, because there were 3 blondes after Suzanne Summers left.
Well, Janet and Chrissy.
But anyway, anyway.
Okay,
Three's Company.
Janet or Chrissy? Which one?
This is gonna shock you, Chrissy. It's Suzanne Summers. Come on.
Oh man.
I know who your number one is. I think we have the same number one. But anyway, Batman, give me number 2.
We'll see.
Oh my God, guys! Number 2. It's the Muppet Show. Ah!
That's my number 1.
That's my number 1.
We're all doing Kermit
Now
the Muppet arms right now.
Again, I don't know what your number 1 is, but I
How can
disagree
that-
with it because the
I do
Muppet
too.
Show is friggin' brilliant.
I don't
It's
think
brilliant.
I don't think you'll disagree. At best, you'll just disagree at where I put it.
We'll talk about number
But
1.
you won't disagree.
I'll tell you where you can put your number 1.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, you can put your number 1 up your number 2.
Look,
Let's talk
let me
about
just-
the Muppet
oh,
Show.
Before we go on, I'm going to tell you my number 1. I don't know if you can call them one because I put these at the same level.
Well, then you
But
go ahead
let's
and say your number 1, and then we'll just throw it away, and we'll all talk about the Muppet Show.
No. 'Cause we're not going to be able to throw this one away. Let's talk about the Muppets right now.
All right, wait, it's your
Muppet
number
Show.
2, so go ahead and start.
All right.
Yes.
The Muppets. The flippin' Muppets.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, okay, so John Henson is a genius. Let's just get that out of the way.
Jim Henson.
Jim Henson. Edit that out later.
Well,
Jim Henson's a genius.
John is his son.
John is a genius too. But Jim, let's get that out of the way. Jim Henson is a genius. Okay?
Yes.
Who was your favorite Muppet character growing up?
Oh gosh, Ward off.
Kermit the Frog here.
Well, I mean, I know mine. I was just waiting
Well,
for
they
you.
were all bad. Who's your favorite?
Ozzy.
Oh, is it fun? Waka waka waka.
Waka, waka.
But
Waka,
honestly, they're all great.
They are great.
They are great. I mean, Ralph the dog is the Mrs. favorite.
There is nothing that excites my emotions more than seeing the Muppets.
And who doesn't love Beaker?
Agree. We watched an episode of Muppet Babies this morning.
Oh my!
We did. We
goodness.
woke up and we watched Muppet Babies just
That's
to kind of.
always good.
Yeah. So I can't even really
Here's-
go ahead. Yeah.
The
yeah.
Muppets had the ongoing like pigs in space. You knew it had familiar shows that they brought back all the time. They'd bring characters in, guest stars in, and that was what was fun to watch.
It was like sketch comedy with puppets. It was
I'm
fantastic.
talking at
exactly.
the height of their career. Mark Hamill, right after Empire, is going on to the Muppet Show,
Yes.
and you're like, "It's Luke Skywalker on the Muppets."
Like, the fact that the
these are the
Muppets-
biggest. It's like
yeah.
Johnny Depp coming to the Muppet Show,
Yeah.
or Bradley Cooper doing the next episode. It's all the A-list stars that were coming on that show at the time, which just blows your mind. John Denver, one of the biggest artists.
everybody
in the
that was
70s,
big was on
and
that show.
Everyone was there, and it worked. And they made fun of themselves, and they had
Yeah.
fun.
The Muppets sort of became this vessel that, like, you've made it. You're big. You're
No,
on
yeah.
Muppets now.
Yeah.
You line up to get on the Muppet Show, and I don't blame them. I loved that Muppet Show.
It was perfect. It was it was a perfect vehicle to push the Muppets into mainstream, and the fact that they got like
Definitely.
their own. Well, it was a vaudeville show. Like that's that type of humor. Like it was just
That's
this
that's
variety
exactly what it
vaudeville.
was.
They made fun of themselves. It was a song and dance show,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's kind of what we've alluded to a lot. Is that stuff, if it's done right, it doesn't ever get old. Like that.
No.
That is a wonderful type of humor.
And that's an interesting point because in the 70s, that stuff was sort of still echoing. And you had the variety shows in the 50s, and then in the 70s you had Carol Burnett's variety show, but sort of
and
like
Rowan and Martin's
vaudeville.
laughing.
Yeah, I mean, you just talk about the vaudeville, right?
Right.
Then you throw in, you bring the same thing to TV in the 70s, but you do it with the freaking Muppets.
Here's the thing about the Muppets. Now, this is more about the Muppets than it is just the show, so I'll keep it brief. But the Muppets, Jim Henson and Frank Oz and all of those guys, the Muppets have more personality. Those characters have more personality and are better
That's what's so
actors
incredible.
than 99% of live action actors I have ever
Agreed.
seen. Like how to make like just a piece of cloth come to life.
Right.
Like
Agreed.
it's like whenever you watch any of the movies, like the Muppet movie or Muppets Take Manhattan, like
Muppets Take Manhattan.
it is movie
Muppets Treasure
magic.
Island.
Like
It's
like
fantastic.
you love these characters.
Yeah.
You fall in love with them. You feel so sorry for Kermit, and Miss Piggy is just so oppressive and whatever and funny and like everything. Like everything is bizarre and weird, but it's the humor. It's the writing, the vaudeville humor, and the timing of everything, and the way that they manipulated those puppets' faces. Like whenever Kermit gets like disgusted with Piggy, and then like his lips just kind of like like that's a puppet, but you feel him, and that's the reason why like the Muppets are kind of hard for me to watch these days because Jim Henson is gone. And I'll tell you why. Like I thought the two movies that came out were good, especially the first one, because I think Jason Segel did a
one was
great
great.
job of capturing that spirit.
Yeah.
But the Muppets, as we know it, will never be the same because Jim Henson was Kermit. And I don't care how well anybody out there can do his voice.
It's not Jim
Right.
It's
Henson.
not Jim Henson. And you can
Right.
always tell because there's this little hint of magic that's just not there.
And this is another shout for the first one of the first of the two newer Muppet movies was that song, and I think Jason Segel co-wrote most of it, right?
He did, yeah, he wrote the
that
music
song
and-
where he's walking down the hall and seeing the old pictures.
Oh yeah, that's Fozzie. And oh no, that's Kermit.
It's Kermit.
Yeah.
Where Kermit's
So he's looking at the pictures.
If they try to appeal to him, hey, please, you gotta bring the
It's
show
so
back.
sad, yeah.
And I think that's why I love the movie, because Jason Segel to me seems like a true the voice of all fans.
Well, you can tell he loved it.
There's no doubt he was a huge fan.
Yeah,
Right.
it wasn't just
that's-
making a
and
movie
that's
to
why-
make a movie.
Right.
And that's why to just cash it in. I agree
Right.
on the names alone.
Exactly,
and
you're
it
right.
worked. It worked on all levels.
It was so genuine and so heartfelt.
So, what is your number one?
The moment we've all been waiting for.
And now for something completely different. Monty Python's Flying Circus.
No, sorry, bogus. God, where's Megan? Can we get the bogus in here?
Are you gonna bogus Monty Python's Flying Circus?
I will do this publicly right now.
I'm
not a fan of Monty Python.
I'll be honest, the Monty Python, I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of good skits. There's some garbage in there.
I'm talking about even the
And
movies,
I'm not being
too.
hard on it. Well, the movies are a different matter because I do like some of the movies
I'm weird
too.
like that. Like, I'm controversial.
I do love
Holy
Monty
Grail,
Python, but-
overrated. Like, one of the most overrated movies I've ever seen. All you people out
Okay.
there that likes to just comment it all the time and
Yes,
say,
that's
oh, it's just a
debatable, but-
flesh wound. Well, like, get over it. It's
But-
not
but- okay,
funny.
We
And
can
this-
talk about movies later on.
But this is-
talking about the TV show.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, well, the
Go
TV
ahead.
show, I mean, you didn't have a whole lot of, I mentioned the Avengers. It was an import, and then here comes Monty Python's Flying Circus. And I think it was something that America was seeing sort of at the time, Carol Burnett, but then you had Monty Python's Flying Circus come over. And to me, John Cleese is he's my favorite, one of my favorite comedic actors. But
No,
then-
he's smart.
But
No.
you have Eric Idle, you have the whole cast, all the Pythons, they're just genius.
And
to
there's
me.
no doubt it's a witty show, but to
And-
me, the Muppet Show trumped.
Well, here's the thing. That's why I said I can't put one over the other. If I could have two number ones, because John Cleese was
but
even
you
at
did.
the Muppet.
You put one over the other. And now I can't look you in the eye.
Okay, well, haters don't
Haters
have to-
gonna
Haters!
hate,
don't have to
Haters!
listen.
What about the
Don't have to listen.
Waltons?
Don't have to listen.
You know what? Taylor Swift told me to shake it off.
Okay,
shake
hold
it
on a
off.
second.
Oh,
Can
my
we at
goodness.
least be in agreement about the Waltons?
I'd like to take a moment of silence to say that this episode is brought to you by Fred Khalil. Need someone to kill? Call Fred Khalil.
Fred Khalil. You want to sell your house and seal the deal? Fred Khalil.
Hey, if you ain't dead, call Fred.
Hey! Folks, that's all the time we have for today. We will see you next week on another Saturday morning Samoflange.